And Texas, trying to thwart Democrats' harmful agenda on the border. That's our focus in tonight's preamble. The headlines from the Democrats' border policies are depraved and disgusting. Child sex trafficking in Utah counties now confirmed. For all of you educated folks out there in the Democrat-run schools, Utah is not a border state. In socialist-dominated New York, between the years of 2008 and 2019, there were 700 arrests and 420 convictions for sex trafficking. That was before Joe Biden's know-nothing leftist millennials flung open the borders to all manner of illegal activity. Millions of illegal aliens, tons of illegal drugs like fentanyl, and of course, the grotesque sex trafficking of children and women. But according to the Texan.news, the state of Texas is getting in the way of the Democrats and human policies on the U.S.-Mexico border. 70 children were rescued in West Texas from human trafficking. Many of these children age range from 10 to 17 were victims of sex trafficking and suffered both physical and sexual abuse. This industry of exploitation of children is thriving at our chaotic border with Mexico. I'm ecstatic that at least one state, Texas, is trying to stand in the way of the Democrats' disgusting and abhorrent policies. Let's bring in our first guest from the great state of Texas, the Attorney General, Ken Paxton. Sir, it's always great to have you. What can Texas do in light of Biden's policies promoting all of this disgusting and illegal activity on the border? Are there any legal grounds to stop the damage being done by the Democrats' promotion of illegal immigration, narcotics, guns, and the sex trade?
You know, you point out one story or two stories, a few stories that you've highlighted. There are really thousands of those stories affecting not just border states, but the reality is we all are border states, just like New York and Utah. And so, yes, we're fighting them in the courts. We're sending law enforcement down to the border. We've got literally hundreds of millions of dollars being spent by Texans to try to do what we can. But the reality is that the federal government is going to promote this, which they absolutely are. They're literally spending hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars to promote illegal immigration. They're encouraging it at every turn. And it's really hard to fight your own government and the cartels and the Chinese and the rest of the world when we're dealing with illegal immigration.
Wow, that's exactly what Texas is up against right now, folks. Texas is the only state standing in the gap between the rest of the country and the Democrats' dark designs. Meantime, Mr. Attorney General, Elon Musk, he's threatening to walk away from his bid, $44 billion bid, to buy out Twitter over these alleged fake accounts. You know, estimates say 20% or more could be fake accounts. But you're investigating Twitter over this. What law might Twitter have broken in your view?
So we in Texas, we have a constitution that requires that the Attorney General do a couple of things. One of those things is to deal with corporations that are potentially committing fraud against consumers. In this case, if Twitter is saying that these accounts are legitimate and yet 5 to 20% of them are not, and they know it, that there are these bots, they're fake accounts, and they're making money off them, that's harming Texas consumers. So we sent out yesterday what are called civil investigative demand, which is really just questions about their accounts, how many they have, how many they know are fraudulent or fake. We'd like to get to the bottom of that because it does affect consumers in Texas. It does cost them money if this is actually going on.
Guns are a big debate in the country right now, and you have blasted Texas Senator John Cornyn, and we have as well, over his efforts to join Democrats in their push to punish the law-abiding citizens of our country for the actions taken by criminals. State Senator Bob Hall, who I know you know very well, says that Texas is a sanctuary state for the Second Amendment from a law that was passed in the 87th legislature. Given that California isn't prosecuted by the feds for their violations of federal immigration law by being a sanctuary state for illegals, isn't Texas safe by ignoring any future federal law that restricts the Second Amendment in any way?
Listen, whatever law they try to pass, if it violates the Second Amendment, we're going to fight them over that because they don't have any right. I don't care if it's a Texas senator, I don't care if it's John Cornyn, I don't care who it is. They have no right to take away guns from law-abiding citizens or restrict their use. This is exactly what the founders were trying to prevent. They were trying to prevent the government from having an advantage by having weapons that the citizens didn't have. The citizens were guaranteed that right, and we're going to fight for it.
All right, let me end our conversation where we started. A reported 15,000 illegal alien wannabes are heading toward our border, allegedly the largest caravan we have ever seen. These foreign nationals are calling on Joe Biden to keep his promise and repeal Title 42, one of the last legal, impediments to them gaining open access to the United States. In your view, Mr. Attorney General, what can Texas do to stop these foreign nationals from illegally entering the United States and abusing our stupidly written asylum laws?
Well, look, I wish Joe Biden would keep his promise to the American people. When he was sworn in that very first day, he promised to uphold the Constitution. And what that means is his job as the president is to enforce the laws that are not on the books, not the ones that he wishes were there. In this case, he's not doing that. So we're fighting him in court. We've got an injunction right now stopping Title 42 from being withdrawn. We're also waiting for the U.S. Supreme Court to rule on this Remain in Mexico asylum policy that the Biden administration has illegally adopted. If we can be successful on two of those things, we should be able to prevent most of these people from coming into the country, assuming that the Biden administration is willing to follow court orders by the third branch of government.
Well, as you know, California, made up of Joe Biden's party, they ignore law. And of course, Joe Biden has a long history, and his Democrats have a long history of ignoring the rule of law. So we'll see. Attorney General of the great state of Texas, Ken Paxton, always appreciate the visit, sir.